Welcome class to your Chapter 2 lecture video. Chapter 2 is topic of developing a web page. So here's the overview of our chapter. The process of developing a web page requires a lot of thought and planning. Besides developing the page content, you also need to write descriptive head content. Head content does not appear on the page, but in the HTML code. It contains information search engines use to help users find your website. Next, we'll choose a page background and text colors using style sheets, and then add page content, style it attractively, and add links to let users navigate between the site pages. Finally, to ensure that all links work correctly and are current, we're going to test them regularly. So those are some guidelines that we need to be following when we start developing our web pages. So Chapter 2 objectives, we're going to create head content and set page properties, create, import, and format text, add links to web pages, edit code, and modify and test web pages. So before I jump into Striped Umbrella and go through the examples in the chapter, I want to point out the lecture notes. So in the lecture notes we have Chapter 2. This is a PowerPoint that's in PDF version. The first page talks about understanding page layout. Now I want you to really think about these, read through it in the book, use white space effectively. So don't try to clutter your screen with so much media elements or content, pictures, those kind of things. Use the white space effectively. Limit media elements. Keep it simple. So what is the purpose of your page? Are you trying to give them a form to fill out? Are you trying to give them information about who you are as a business? Those are kind of things you want to think about. Use an intuitive navigation structure. So a navigation structure that allows your visitors to get where they need to go. Apply a consistent theme. So once you decide a layout beyond your home page, and your home page can have the same layout as the rest of the pages, you want to keep that theme consistent. So I'm not going to go through any of the other slides within Chapter 2, but it's imperative that you go through them as you're reading through the chapter so that you know what information I'm pulling out that's important for you to learn. Okay, so let's jump into Chapter 2. Page 2-6. So the first instruction says start Dreamweaver, select the site list arrow on the Files panel, then select the Striped Umbrella if necessary. So I already have Striped Umbrella selected. Okay, number 2, double-click Index in the Files panel to open the Striped Umbrella home page. So let's go ahead and open up Index. And I want you to notice that there is kind of an issue right from the get-go. We have code, we have split, and we have live view, but I do not have a design view. So what you need to do to get design view is to remove some lines in SU styles. So I come to SU styles and I'm going to go right to code view, and you need to remove lines 15 through 28. So again, I said SU_styles, not boilerplate. We never touch boilerplate in any way, modify it in any way. We want to remove this from SU styles. When you start working with blooms, you're going to remove lines 15 through 28 of BB_styles, and the same thing with TripSmart_styles. Now the process after this is to save all, close Index, and then open Index again. And then you will have a toggle between live and design view. Okay. Number 3, click after the end of the Striped Umbrella text in the title text box in the document toolbar. Okay, so here's the deal with our document toolbar in 2017. We do not have anything with the title text box. From 2016 version to 2017, it's in the Properties Inspector. So we go to Window, and then we come to Properties, or you can go Control F3. So there's our document title. We're going to go ahead and add Beach, Resort, and Spa, Fort Eugene, Florida. Okay, you don't have to worry about hitting enter. That was kind of an issue that you needed to do in older versions of Dreamweaver. Okay, another way that you could have gone about doing the page title, so let me go ahead and just cut that out of here, is you could actually use code view. So if I'm in code view, I just find the title tag, which is usually around in the 10 to 15 lines, and I could just add it right here. So I already have it typed, so I just copied and pasted it in there. Okay, moving on to page 2-7. Let me go ahead and save this real quick. I'm a person that likes to save. Number 1, select the Insert Panel list arrow. So we need to be in the Insert Panel. Let me go ahead and get the Properties Inspector. So the Insert Panel, okay, and it says List arrow. So whenever you see the word Common Category in your book, we're going to be in the HTML category. Back in Chapter 1, through the PowerPoint presentation, I showed you exactly what categories there are. There are no longer 8. There's actually just these 7 here. Okay, so they've combined a couple of them together. They've gotten rid of the common category. For our purposes, we're going to be in HTML most of the semester. When we get to the chapter that's on forms, we'll go to the form. Okay, so you don't need to worry about the rest of these. So HTML category in place of common category, or even the structure category. Number 2, select the head list arrow as shown in figure 3 and select keywords. So you just need to scroll down until you find the word keywords. Okay, before I go ahead and enter these keywords, this is very important, and this is something I usually forget. Make sure you're in design view before you enter keywords, okay, because then it'll place them correctly where they need to be in the code. If I'm down here, like say in this list item for welcome to Striped Umbrella, and why is that a list? I must have hit something. See if I can undo here. There we go. If I'm down here in a paragraph for Striped Umbrella, it's going to insert that meta tag exactly where you have your cursor at in the code view. Okay, so make sure you're in design view. It doesn't matter where you're at because then it'll do it correctly. So keywords, and then I go ahead and enter them in. Oh, let me get my cursor there. This is what's listed in number 3. Separate them by commas. There we go. So double check after you've typed them in that they're all spelled correctly. So I go ahead and click on code or OK. And if I look in my code view, they're inserted right before the opening body tag. Okay. Now, if you were in were you in code view before that, it wouldn't have inserted them in the correct spot. So back to design view. The next thing is to enter in our description, which is the following page. Okay. So bear with me with my typing. Okay, so the Striped Umbrella is a full-service resort and spa just steps from the Gulf of Mexico in Fort Eugene, Florida. So when you're developing your keywords and your description for a coffee shop, you want to think about with the keywords, you want to think about how people would search for you. You've been out to Google many times and you've searched, so you know what it's like to be a searcher. So think about how you would, or a possible customer would actually search for you trying to find your coffee shop. Okay, when you do that, go out to Google, okay, and actually do it. So actually enter in some of the keywords maybe that you've come up with, or maybe keywords that you would use to find coffee shops located here in Bismarck and Mandan, okay, or wherever you're living. Okay, and then look at maybe what the keywords that they're using in their code. You can do that by going Control U on your keyboard to view the source code, and you can look up in the head section to find the information. Most of the time you're not going to find it because they really don't list it. So then what we want to do is kind of scroll through the content of their page and look at words that kind of repeat themselves. Okay. Location is very important to include in your keywords because a lot of people search on location based where they're at. Now the description is a selling point for you. So description is usually what appears below the search item in your search engine results page. You want it to create an action. So they did it with this. The Striped Umbrella is a full-service resort and spa just steps from the Gulf of Mexico in Fort Eugene, Florida. Well, if I have searched for a resort and spa in Fort Eugene, Florida, most likely the Striped Umbrella is going to come up because I got resort and spa in description and Fort Eugene, Florida. And it has to do with a lot of content on the page too. But that's kind of the bare minimum of what you want to do with your keywords and your description. So make the description a selling point. Make it something that people want to actually click on if you were to show up in their search results. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to page 9. So we're coming out of talking about keywords and description, and we're moving into the CSS Designers panel. So moving out of the head content and moving into the actual styling of elements that have to do with our page. So it says place the pointer over the CSS Designer panel group title bar. So if you do not have it here, remember from chapter 1 I said you can come up and you can reset your workspace. And I do this often because I tend to manipulate my workspace, but I'm going to go ahead and close this tab group. Well, maybe not. I got to talk about assets a little later on. Okay, so take the CSS Designer panel, hold down your left mouse key, and drag it out, just like we did in chapter 1 when we were undocking panels. And then drag this to make it wide enough so that you can understand what's listed in the left side, and you can see all the properties that are going to be listed in the right side. Okay, so we have sources, we have media, and we have selectors. So here's the lowdown. Sources, these are your style sheets. Okay, so here's boilerplate, and I see SU styles. If you do not see those two listed here, make sure you're not on current. Media has to do with the media queries that are in the style sheet. So we're going to design for our smartphones initially. That's the flow of the code. Then we change things up for tablet, and then we ultimately lastly design for desktop. And I'll show you that as we continue through. I don't think I get too much detail here in this chapter, but we'll continue through learning it as we get into further chapters. Selectors, this is the actual object that I'm trying to adjust on the page. Okay, so it's when the instructions come down, it'll say select SU styles, it'll select global, it'll say select this one, which is tablet, and this one is desktop. So you want to watch the instructions and how they're worded, and then they'll tell you which selector to select here. Okay, so let's move on to actually applying that. So it says in number 4 on page 10, select SU_styles in the sources pane, then select fluid. Okay, so I got this one. I usually always go for global, and then if it's not listed. Okay, and then in number 4 it says fluid. So I select fluid. These are all the properties. If I unclick show set, and so if I hover over this right now, it says show only set properties. So these are the properties that are set for fluid. If I uncheck this, then I get my 5 categories, and I can set new properties for that particular object on the page. Okay, so when you want to see what you've actually set for a selector, you click show set. Okay, when you want to apply them, you uncheck it to get your 5 categories. Let's look at those 5 categories. We've got layout, we've got text properties, we've got border properties, background properties, and then we have even more. Okay, and typically we're going to be in these first 4. So let's go ahead and do show set back to the way it was before. In number 5 it says scroll down the properties pane in the right column until you see the background category, and then select set background color box. Okay, so you got 2 choices when you set your background color. You can use the color swatches to grab a hold of it. If you know the hex, you can actually type it in right here. So they want us to choose a different background. And there's the hex number. When you're in this, all you have to do is hit enter on your keyboard, and then now I can see that this is fluid. This is what actually changed when I changed that color. Now to come back to it, you can go ahead and choose white. Okay, just like that, and it's not actually pure white there. There's pure white. You have to drag it all the way up, or you could type in 6 Fs here as well. So that brings me back to my white background. Okay. Number 6 on page 11. Select a different color in the color picker. Oh, we actually did this. In 6 and 7 we already did. Also, if you want to revert back to the previous color, you'll have that right here as well. Okay, and that's pointed out in figure 10. Okay, so number 8, click the design view window to close the color picker. Select boilerplate. So this is number 9. Select global in the media, and then select body in the selector. So then scroll down and find body. And then here is the background color. So this is the body. This is that dark gray that you see on either side. And so this is where, for your coffee shop, this is where you would go to. You would go through these same steps, and you could apply maybe a darker brown on the side for a coffee shop. Okay, so fluid had to do with the document where the text and the banner are all at. And then body with boilerplate has to do with the color that's on the right and the left side. So here we're going to change this to, actually we're just going to remove it. So when we remove it, it actually allows the fluid selector's white background property to format the background. Okay. So moving on to the next section, we got create, import, and format text. So let me go ahead and go to File, Save All on my changes. So entering text. So this is why it was so important for us to remove lines 15 through 28 in our style sheet. So, because it's much easier to work with design view than it is to work with live view. So it says position the insertion point directly after want to go home. I'm going to go ahead and just collapse this panel and drag it off. So you want to go home right here at the very end, and hit enter. And so they want us to type in what you see there in figure 11. Striped umbrella. So it's a little address information at the end. Now, after you get that line done, you want to go Shift Enter on your keyboard and type in the address. So Shift Enter is a line feed, whereas an Enter is creating a new paragraph. So that's going to create a blank line before and after. So make sure you're using Shift Enter to create this information. Okay. So that is all of page 14. So 15 says select the entire address and telephone number. So I'll go ahead and select it. Use my properties inspector to make it italicized. So we click on the italic button. Go to code view. You can see down here in split view what it added was an EM tag before the start of the content and a closing EM tag after the start of the content. Notice that my shift enters are breaks. Okay, whereas when I hit the enter key here, it created a brand new paragraph. It's always helpful for us to kind of know a little bit about the code so that when Dreamweaver's not exactly doing what we need it to do, we can go into code view and kind of manipulate it that way. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this page. I'm going to save all. And then page 16, it says select file on the menu bar and save as. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to use this page as a template to build another page. So file, save as, and we're going to save it over SPA. Okay, and the next step is to remove the page content but not the address at the bottom. Okay, so that's what you'll have there. Number 4, place the insertion point in front of the first address line. And insert panel, and then go, it says common category, but we know we need to go to the HTML category and select image. So insert, scroll up, find image. This is where you navigate to your data files. So we're in Chapter 2. We want to go to Assets, and we want to bring in CSPA logo.ping. Okay, and so there it is. Come back to your Files panel, look at your Assets file, and make sure CSPA logo copied over. And the reason that it copied over is because when we look at Striped Umbrella, when I look at the definition of the site, Advanced Settings says Assets is my default images folder. So if it did not copy over, you need to make sure you have set this to be Assets, and make sure you've done it for Blooms and TripSmart and Coffee Shop as well. So that automatic copy will happen. Okay, let's go ahead and give it some alternate text. So whenever you insert an image, you want to give some alternate text to, and this is number 6. With the logo selected, type the C Spa logo as the alt text. Okay, number 7, click to place the insertion point to the immediate right of the logo. Okay, so you can select the image, and if you hit your right arrow, it'll put it to the immediate right. And then go ahead and hit enter. So we're just essentially putting the address information underneath the logo. Okay, number 1, under copy and paste text on page 17, I just say open this file inside of Dreamweaver. So file open, go to your data files, and open up spa.txt. Okay, you want to copy all content, and then come back to spa, and it says in number 3, return to Dreamweaver, click to place the insertion point to the right of spa logo, and then press enter, create a paragraph break, and then paste. So now all of our text is placed below that logo, and we still have our address information at the bottom. Okay. Page 18. Scroll up the page and select the text to See Spa Services. Okay, we're going to change this from paragraph to heading 1. The heading 1 format is applied. Okay, even a single word is considered a paragraph if there is no paragraph break. The HTML code for heading is heading 1. So let's go ahead and look at the code right here, H1 to closing H1. So you always turn on the formatting, and then you always have to turn it off. Okay. Select the text massages, facials, and body treatments and change them to heading 2. So these 3 right here, change them to heading 2. Now when I look at that code, I see there's a break tags that separate the text, but opening header 2 and after body treatments is closing header 2. And this is called semantic markup. Semantic markup means coding to emphasize meaning, okay, just like you would in a paper. Okay, so a newspaper emphasizes headlines. You can change the size of the text for each heading using style sheets if you want to change the default settings, and we're going to do this process in Chapter 3. Okay, number 4, click after the word treatments if necessary and select Show Code and Design View, the word massages after the words body treatments, and so on. So that's exactly what is right here. It says tip on page 19, if your header 1 tag is before the image tag rather than before the See Spa Services, cut and paste it. So if it were to happen to ended up like this, where your heading 1 was here, okay, and I actually don't see, and this code doesn't exactly jive with me, where it says the P and then it says EM. I'm going to go ahead and take the EM out and the closing EM out. And the reason that happened is because the address was formatted that way. I actually don't even care to have the P tags around there, but I'm going to go ahead and leave those. I'm going to delete this empty paragraph. So that's some of the tweaking that you can do when you see something that doesn't make sense to you, but if it doesn't make sense, if it does make sense to you, I should say, if it doesn't make sense to you and you don't know what you're doing, don't touch it. Page 19, check spelling. So check spelling is different in this version. It's not through the commands menu as stated in number 3. It's through the tools menu, and then we click on spell check. Okay, so it says to select massage if this comes up and change that. So you want to click on change. And any other words that come up, you want to click on ignore. Okay, adding links to web pages. So we're getting there. We're almost done. This is we're going to add a navigation system to our website. So on page 22, create a menu bar. We want to come back to the index page. So save your changes for spa. You can close out spa. And you want to position your cursor right in front of the W in the first paragraph. Okay, so we're going to insert a navigation structure, and we're going to do that through the Insert panel. We want to scroll down until we see Navigation. And in this box, you're going to type in fluid. It's being really slow. Fluid space intro underscore paragraph. And this is modifications to the directions. If you look at figure 21, you will see that there's a checkbox for insert as fluid element. We don't have that in our current version of Dreamweaver, so we need to prefix anytime we add in any object through the insert panel that has a class, you need to insert the word fluid and a space in front of it. And I have them all posted in the directions on the assignments page. So I go ahead and click OK. So now it says content for class fluid intro paragraph goes here, and that's placeholder text. So next you want to do is start typing your navigation, which is in number 6. Make sure you capitalize each word in a navigation just so it brings attention to your navigation structure. And we're going to switch up this navigation later on. So this is just kind of a generic simple way to go about creating a navigation. We'll create a better one as we continue on. So we want to link each one of these. So the home page is going to go to index, about us to about us, spa to spa, cafe to cafe, and activities to activities. So you want to use your Properties Inspector to do this along with your Files panel. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to go about doing it. So I'm going to double click Home. So if you have one word, you can do a double click. If you have more than one word, you want to select both of those words. So using my Properties Inspector, I can create the link by navigating to my website, and it should automatically, and if it doesn't, you want to navigate to it. So I'm going to go to index. Okay, so now I have a link to the index page when I click on home. Now if I know the page title and I'm confident in my typing, I can just type it in there too. Let's go ahead and do about us. So about us, I'm going to go ahead and take and use point to file, the icon that's before the folder, and I'm going to hold down my left mouse button. I'm going to drag up to that file and select it. Okay, same thing with spa. I scroll down a little bit in my files, come to spa, cafe, and activities. And there we go. So all 5 of them are linked. Now, of course, the logical process would be to place this on all of your pages, and I kind of push just the brakes just a little bit on that, just simply because we are going to be developing a nicer looking navigation down the road, and then we'll copy it to all of the pages. You're very welcome to copy it to all of the pages, that's fine, but just know that we'll be replacing that and you'll have to go through the copy again. Page 24, create an email link. So we're going to link up Club Manager, or actually we're going to add it first. So here's a very important instruction. You can see how my cursor there is flashing and it is straight, okay, up and down. I wanted to use my left arrow button to push it back right to right after the 8. And this is important that if I'm here and I hit Shift Enter, it's not going to take the formatting from the address of the italicizing with it. I need to be right next to the 8 to go ahead and do that. So Shift Enter, and then I type in Club Manager. Oh, actually no, they're having you. How are they having you do it? Yep, they're actually having you do it this way. Okay, so it's there, and then we're going to go ahead and click on Insert, and then click on Email Link. And here we type in Club Manager. Okay, now my email is showing up there. Your email is probably blank. My email is showing up simply because I've done this process already. Okay, so go ahead and type in manager@stripedumbrella.com and then go ahead and click on OK. Now, if it did show up as italicized, it's because you did not position it right after the 8. Okay, so you can go ahead and try to fix it in code view, or you can just undo. Control Z on your keyboard is your undo, or edit menu and then undo. Okay, Next step is we're going to look at the Assets panel on page 25. So when I create any type of link or add images to my pages, I'm adding assets. So in the third icon, it says URLs, and if I click on that, I will see that actual email that I just set up. Now images, there's my images so far that I have in my website. Let me go ahead and see if I can get down to the bottom here and click on refresh. Not sure why my little C, my other logo, is not showing up there. Okay, use the history panel and edit code. Here's the deal with the history panel in 2017. It no longer exists. So page 28 we don't even complete. Okay, so we'll jump to page 29, the code inspector. So I'm going to go to Window and Code Inspector. Okay, so I need to have a page clicked on to actually see the code behind it. So it's just another way for you to be able to work with your code. That's what the Code Inspector is all about. Now, view options, they want you to make sure that word wrap is there so that you don't have one long line that's going all the way to the right as far as possible as it has to go. So you can use Code Inspector, but if you have a large monitor, split view is probably what you want to be working with. View HTML5 nav tags on page 30. So it says locate the beginning tag for the menu bar. I'll close that out. Close the Property Inspector. Okay. So I'm looking for nav, and it says nav class equal fluid intro paragraph, and here's all my hyperlinks and closing nav. Highlighted in that code, it shows up in the design view. It says the nav tag was added to the menu bar when you use the Insert panel to add a navigation element in the structure category. The nav tag is an HTML5 tag that tells screen readers that the text following the opening tag provides navigation links for the site. So if I have someone that is visually impaired and they have a screen reader that's reading the web page to them, it's very important that that nav element, an HTML5 element, be there so that it can work with their screen reader system. Okay, let's look at fonts. So maybe your fonts aren't exactly what you want to be for code view. You go to Edit and then to Preferences. And this is where I talked about the different themes that you could work with as well. I believe it's under, I looked this up the other day too. They change it each time. Fonts maybe. Yep, here's fonts, makes sense. So you've got code view, so you could change to a different font type if you wanted and change the font size if you wanted. Let me pull that in here a little bit. So font size. Okay, jumping to page 31, we're going to insert a date that automatically updates every time we save the page. So scrolling down to the bottom, it says last updated on January 1st, 2016. Okay, so I'm going to delete that information. Using my Insert panel, I'm going to scroll down to find Date and click on it. And then I can choose the format of the date that I want. So update automatically on save, you want to make sure you check that, and you can choose whatever date format you want. Okay, so there's January 20th, 2017. Now I'm just going to look in code view because this is what I'm going to look for when I correct your information. I'm going to be looking for this. Begin date, format AM1. So don't just type in a date. Make sure that you go ahead and do the date object itself. The next section is modify and test web pages. And this talks about kind of testing through the different responsive designs. And so page 2-34, you have a desktop button, tablet size button, and mobile size button. We do not have that, of course, in our version because we have a lot of changes. You can click on the little icon. Let me hover over it. What does it say? Real-time preview. So you can preview in your browsers, okay? And you can also preview on a device. So what's really nice about this is you can download a QR code reader. You can take that and hover that over top of your QR code. It will automatically open that web page that you're testing on that device through Adobe's website. And then you'll be able to see how your page appears in that particular device. So if I was testing in a real world environment, I would test on an iPhone. I would test on a Samsung type of phone or maybe an LG phone. I would test on a tablet. I would test on an iPad. I would maybe test on a laptop and test on a desktop. So there's lots of testing that goes on with web pages. Now, you can go ahead and do this process, or you can simply use your screen sizes in the very bottom. Okay, so let me just go to design view completely. So here's the screen sizes. You can set up different screen sizes with edit sizes. So here's iPad. This is what it would look like on an iPad. Let me collapse my panels. Okay, and then iPhone 4, so that you can kind of see what it would look, and we got a different image there. We talked about that a little bit in Chapter 1. iPad Pro. So I got a little bit of scrolling because it's got a wide width to it. And then if I go back to in here, that's even wider. So I can see how things all adjust. Okay. Preview debug in web browser. So let me go back to split view here. It's still part of real-time preview. So they're kind of both put together. You can use whatever browser you want to use. So I'm going to use Firefox, and it'll prompt you to save your changes if you haven't done so already. Okay, and so there is the device preview in Firefox. Notice the address up here. It's local, and then it goes to preview app index.html. Okay, and if I had these, so if I click on SPA, it links to SPA. So I can see what my SPA page looks like as well. Okay, that is Striped Umbrella. When we look at blooms, let me jump back to the assignments page now. When we look at the blooms directions, there's some modifications. So there's modifications for Striped Umbrella too. Maybe a good idea to have this open or to print it out so that you're going through. So like here it says page 2-28, do not complete. Okay, or HTML category, not common category. So even just the little details I point out. Blooms and bulbs. We got blooms styles, and that actually should say BB styles, not bloom styles. Let me change that up here right away. So BB styles is what you want to modify when it comes to remove lines 15 through 28. Remember HTML category, not common category. Add links to web pages. Number 3, class should have fluid in front of it. And again, no history panel. Okay, same thing with ShriftSmart styles. Remove lines 15 through 28. HTML category, not common category, and then we got fluid again. Let's look at coffee shop. So coffee shop, I want you to create a blank HTML page and add your keywords. So let's look at the instructions that they have in your book. It says think about the head content for the home page, add the title, keywords, and description, create the made page content for the home page, add the address and other contact information, consult your wireframe, okay, consult your storyboard, okay, and design the menu bar. Link the menu bar items to appropriate pages, add a last updated statement to the home page. Edit the page content when you're satisfied with the results, and verify all links are working, including the email link. So if you just really kind of step through Striped Umbrella, okay, in the same way, so let's look at it in Dreamweaver. So I would be in my coffee shop website, and I'm not sure if I have a folder for that. So let's just imagine I'm in a coffee shop, and I go File, and I go New. So New Document, HTML, and I click on Create. Okay, so, oh, Dreamweaver, what's going on? Sometimes that happens. So let's see if I can get it to open up again. Okay, so File. It's just being kind of slow. Maybe a little bit of memory issues coming on. File, New, Create. Okay, so I have Untitled. Now, I'm going to think about my content. Okay, but before I think about my content, I'm going to be thinking about my keywords. So in Design View, I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to come down to Keywords. I'm going to click on Keywords. I'm going to enter in keywords. Okay, so after you've done a little bit of research by going out to Google itself and actually searching on some keywords, you'll have a list of keywords that you'll enter right here. Okay, so the next step after that is to go ahead and click on description and add your one-liner that's going to sell your website so that people click on it when they get you in the search results. Okay, so beyond those two things, you're going to be thinking about your page content. Now, guidelines is 200 words for your home page. Okay, so you need to be using more than one evening to develop this. Okay, so be thinking about what you want to present as information on that home page. Think about the keywords that you came up with and kind of pad those in to your page content. To check how many words, there's lots of ways you can do that. You can use Word to do that. You can use some service that you find out on a search engine as well. So there's lots of avenues to do a word count. 3, add the address and contact information. So you can basically just copy and paste it from Stripe and Umbrella. Make sure you update it. And then add a menu. And the same thing, you want to have the menu items point to the files that are going to be in your site. Do they need to work? No, they don't, because I don't want you to have to create blank pages just to make your navigation work. And then number 6, add a updated statement to the home page. Okay, and then make sure that let's see, you will format the content after you've learned to use cascading style sheets in the next chapter. So don't worry about formatting. So basically what I want is keywords, I want description, I want 200 words of page content, I want an address down at the bottom, and I want a last updated statement below the content. Okay, so those are the items, and I'll post those on the assignments page so that they're very clear. We'll go about making our home page nice and pretty and laid out in a CSS format in Chapter 3. Thank you for your time.